Hello everyone, how you doing? Welcome to this webinar on behalf of the TEFL org. My name is Carl. I am an EFL teacher, I am an EFL examiner, I'm an EFL teacher trainer, and I do weekly webinars for our teacher training company, the TEFL org, here on YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. These are all live webinars, so let us know where you are tuning in from. I'm here in Northern Ireland, where I work as I said, an EFL teacher from my office. I do lots of different things in EFL from this spare room in Belfast. Please, as I said, do let us know where you are, because it's always good to see the different locations that people are in. Also, you might find an EFL buddy near you. You never know who might pop up in the chat. So we do these on a range of different topics every week. Today, we're talking about warmers or openers and how best to start your lesson. I'm going to talk a little bit about 10 different ways to open your EFL lesson. Also going to talk a little bit about why you should do it. And also talk a bit about online, some of the different ways that you might start an EFL lesson online. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested in, please do say hello in the chat, and also get in any live questions you might have. The questions appear up on my screen, and after I've done my little presentation, I read the questions and I answer them. It doesn't have to be about warmers, doesn't have to be about openers, could be about anything at all to do with EFL. Maybe you're thinking about becoming an EFL teacher. Maybe you're thinking about moving abroad somewhere to teach. I've been lucky enough to have taught in parts of Asia, parts of Europe. I can answer your question, or if I can't, Alan, who is monitoring the chat, might be able to. Right, okay, let's just bring this up here. Okay, so 10 ways to start your next EFL lesson. So you generally, they're called warmers. They're also called openers. So if later on you want to Google, because there's lots of websites out there that tells you about these kind of things, you try openers, try warmers, and then sort of think about and then maybe put in like a grammar point, or put in like a lexical group, a topic, whatever you're going to do, and see if that will help you in the future. But I'm going to sort of slip between openers and warmers in this presentation. Right. So why lesson starters matter. So there's sort of the overall view for it as starters as well. So why are they important? They basically warm up the mind, which is where the warmer comes from. You've got to think that you might have a group of kids, you might have a group of adults, and they might not have, they might come fresh to you if it's a morning class you've got with kids, maybe, for example, or if you're getting an adults class in the evening, for example, they might have had quite a boring, lull day, or they might have just woken up, something like that. And if you can get some sort of starter, some sort of opener going, that's a good one. It does warm up their minds. It can really help them to sort of start thinking about things. Also establishes the norms and the rhythms. This is quite important with kids classes. So I remember in some of the kids classes I've taught, if you do, the kids sort of know that the warmer, after a few lessons, the kids know that the warmer activity you're doing isn't sort of graded, isn't sort of important. It's just sort of quite a relaxed way to start a class. It also helps people to get into the rhythm of a class. You know, if they're adults and they've been rushing around all day, they come into your class and they know that, okay, right, this is how the lesson is going to start and this is how the rhythm of the class is going to work. This kind of thing can help students to settle into the class, become more relaxed, become more open to learn. Engage the learners. So quite often, if it's a kids class, they might have had, you know, lessons from other subjects where they feel a bit bored, where they don't really feel like it's for them. If you can get an engaging opener, an engaging warmer, an engaging starter that sort of makes them think about themselves or is quite interesting, that kind of thing, it can, you know, get them more open to wanting to learn with you. It's also a good way of previewing the lesson's topic. So whatever sort of topic you're doing in the class today, it's a nice, easy way to go into the topic. It can also review previous lessons if you want to do it that way. Think about what you did in the last lesson, see if they remember the grammar points that they did in the last lesson. These kind of things are helping you, and it also shows links between the classes. It gets them thinking that they're not sort of standalone classes, that they're part of a group of lessons. Also, and I think this is probably the most important one, is to get them thinking in English. If they are only seeing you for, let's say, 2 hours a week, maybe you're the only English that they are going to come across in that whole week that they're with you. And if you can, you've got to get them out of their L1 and into their L2, which hopefully is English. And I think that if you can get them thinking in English, if you can get them speaking, reading, listening, and writing English pretty quickly in a nice, engaging way, that can really, really help. Right. Some principles of effective openers. So keep it simple and keep it easy to describe. If you are creating some sort of opener where it's a lot of instructions, it's a little bit hard to follow, this can be a bit tricky. So the simpler, the better, I think, for warmers. You know, the instructions should be very easy for you to say. They've got to be quite time efficient. If you're only seeing your class for an hour, you don't want to spend maybe 20 minutes on the opener. You're sort of looking for about 5 to 10 minutes maximum. I would say 5 is a good time for an opener or warmer. If you can do that, I think that'll work really, really well. It should hopefully be engaging and maybe a little bit entertaining. Doesn't have to be entertaining. But if you can get it engaging, what do I mean by engaging? I mean something that's linked to them, something where they're talking about themselves, sometimes something where they're thinking about themselves. This can be useful to get them wanting to learn. Entertaining, because if with kids classes, you know, getting the energy level up can really, really help to start the class well. They can be adjusted to different ages and they can be adjusted to different levels. The ideas I'm going to give you on the next few slides, I think pretty much can be adjusted to use with kids, can be used to do with beginners all the way up to advanced classes. I'm going to talk a little bit about that as I go through the 10 ways. Should be topic and or language focus. So if you are going to do a lesson around vocabulary, try and get them to start thinking about the vocabulary that might be used in the class in the warmer. If you're going to be doing a topic around clothes, for example, the warmer should be about clothes. Outside of that, it doesn't really work. It's not really part of a lesson. It's just sort of some sort of standalone random activity. Also, a good one hopefully activates a bit of knowledge. Doesn't have to be their English knowledge, but can activate their knowledge in their own L1 or just their general knowledge about the world. Anything like that can, again, help your class to get going and help the class to start getting a bit of momentum. Thank you for saying hello. I hope everyone is tuning in. Thank you very much. It's nice to see all the hellos. And again, if you do have any questions, do put them in the chat. I will get to them after I've done the 10. Also, if you've got any comments about anything I've put up there, please do put that in the chat. Right. So my first one, which I think is quite a simple one, is called the personal question. And basically, what you can do is on your whiteboard, whether it's a computer one or whether it's just a writing one or even a blackboard, because I have taught in places where I've had blackboard, you literally just put a personal question on the board to do with the topic. So what's the best country you've been to? Maybe you're talking about countries, maybe you're talking about travel. What did you eat last night? Because you're going to do a lesson on irregular verbs in the past tense. Something like that, and you get them to speak to each other in pairs. Okay? In pairs, discuss this question. Go. That's it. That's your warmer. You walk around. 2 or 3 minutes later, you then start the rest of your lesson. It can be adapted for levels. It can be adapted for ages, can be adapted for class types. So those examples I gave were probably sort of towards the lower levels. You know, if you're going a bit higher, you could say something like, what do you think will happen in the future for your country? Something like that. that makes it a bit higher. They're thinking about future. They're thinking about sort of politics, that kind of thing. Something like that could work. Low levels, kids, you could say something like, what's your favorite animal? Why? Something like that. That could be low levels, really good. Class types, you could talk about some sort of business, something in there. If you're doing business English classes, if you're doing legal English classes, you're doing academic English classes, you could put a lesson up to do with law, with business, whatever it might be. So some examples. What's the best trip you've ever taken? So here you're looking at present perfect. You're looking at vocabulary for travel. Just some ideas there. What's a tool you use at work? This could be, business English. What's a tool you use in your company? If you're going to talk about sort of things in the office, something like that. All these things could be adapted to do different levels, different ages. What's your favorite animal if you're talking about kids? So really, really simple, and probably the one that I personally use the most. Right, a picture prompt. So you put a picture on the board. If you haven't got a board, you hold up a piece of paper. If you're doing it online, you share a picture of something. Okay. You tell them to discuss in pairs. What do you think is happening? Something like that. Very simple. Or what can you see? Tell your partner, what can you see? You walk around and you do it. I think this is quite good for engaging their creativity. If you can put a picture up that, has a few different things going in it, maybe some emotions in the faces, something like that, you can really get them thinking about different things. Instead of them just shouting, I see a cat, so I think the cat has stolen something. Oh, why do you think that? Because look at the face, or look at the angry person behind them. Something like that. It really engages their creativity. Could be adapted for different class types. You're doing a lesson on food with kids. You put lots of different foods up there, like a buffet or something like that. They look, I can see fruit, I can see meat, I can see pasta, whatever it might be. If it's a business English class, you put a picture up of some sort of a business setting, an office, something like that. It can really be adapted for different class types. Thank you for all the hellos. So good to see you all tuning in today. Right, a vocabulary review game. Starting to get a little bit more complicated, but again, you're trying to keep it simple. There are lots of different games that you can play, and I've done webinars where I talk about games, and a lot of the games can be used at the start to get a class going. So you could put a definition on the board, or 4 or 5 different definitions. They have to guess the word from the definition. You could get them to, you could give them some piece of paper that you've cut up. You can hand them out. They have to walk around, say to each other the definition, and another one guesses the word, that kind of thing. Charades, where you usually give a word on a piece of paper. You want them to act out the word. Someone stands at the front of the class and acts it out, or you do it in small groups, whatever you feel like is best for your class. They act it out. Charades, that kind of thing. Pictionary, they draw a word. They have to guess what the word is. Taboo. So this is a game where you give them a word. They have to describe the word however they want to, but they can't say some particular words to describe it. So, for example, you might give them a word you might give them a piece of paper, and on the word, it's on the piece of paper, it says mobile phone, but they can't use the word mobile. They can't use the word phone. They can't use the word talk. They can't use the word internet, something like this. Get them to sort of try and play a little game like that. Taboo, you can look it up. There's loads of definitions, loads of examples online. Now, vocabulary review games are great for reviewing previous vocabulary. So I've spoken before about how I quite often have, when I'm teaching with, especially if it's a class that I'm seeing a lot, I have like a shoebox, an old shoebox, and I cut a little hole in the top. And whenever there's a new word throughout the term, I write it down on a little piece of paper, rip up the piece of paper, and I put it in the box. Then as you're going along throughout the term, you want to do a vocabulary game, you just pick out the word, and then that's the word that you find, that's the word that you use for your vocabulary games. You can also do it online by just having a Google document and you store all the words like that. So really good for reviewing previous lessons. You can also use it, obviously, to sort of bring in some of the words that you're using for the class today on the topic that you're doing. It's also great for exam and academic classes with difficult vocab. Vocabulary is quite often underused by a lot of students. They sort of think they've got to work hard on their grammar, when actually vocabulary can get them generally, I think, a bit further than grammar can. It can also help with things like reading, can help with skills like listening. So if you've got some sort of vocabulary games and you're doing sort of quite high level classes, keeping that vocabulary going is really useful. Okay, next thing is a story chain. So you get your students either in little groups, depends on the ages. So if you've got, it depends on the class size. So obviously if you've got a class size of 30, this could be a bit tricky, but you might divide it into 5s or you might divide it into 6s, however it might be. Basically how this activity works is you start a story and then they continue it. So you say something along the lines of, yesterday I was walking down the street. Miguel, yesterday I was walking down the street and I saw an elephant. Miguel saw an elephant. Okay, Carla. Yesterday I was walking down the street and I saw an elephant. The elephant was eating an ice cream. My elephant was eating an ice cream. That kind of thing is funny, keeps them going, and they just keep continuing their story. Okay, and you could do it either with and I should say, if you think they have the ability, they have to remember the ones that went on before. If you don't think they've got the ability, it can literally just be, you say, yesterday I walked down the street. Miguel, I saw an elephant. Carla, it was eating an ice cream. And then the teacher can try and remember it as he goes around. And then every now and again you think, oh, I can't remember this. What happened there? And you point at Miguel and everyone goes, elephant. You go, oh yeah, elephant. That kind of thing can work really well. It's really good for grammar reviews, this one, especially the past tenses. If you did some sort of past tense in the last few lessons, this kind of thing can work really well. Kids absolutely love it. And it doesn't have to necessarily be a story. It could just be like the shopping basket one with kids if you've got quite low level ones. So I went to the zoo and I saw an elephant. Next person, I went to the zoo, I saw an elephant and a tiger, and they keep going around like that. Kids love this game. So something that's worth thinking about with that one. Headlines or social media posts. Here's another one. So show some headlines that you've taken or you've created, or some social media posts that you found from Twitter or X, or you found from Facebook, whatever it might be, about the topic you're covering. See if you can also put the pictures up as well. Display them on the board, hold them up, print them out, whatever you might want to do. And then ask them to discuss in pairs, something like, what is the topic of these? What do you think is happening if you're talking about a news story? Who would write these? You do erase the name. So, you could do this with, as I said, by topic. So you put lots of different posts or about clothes, for example, or different posts about food, whatever the topic might be. What you think is happening, you could do that with news stories. If you're sort of looking about business English or something like that, you could put like quotes up by, you could put posts up by, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, whatever it might be, sort of getting thinking about that kind of thing. And this is easily adaptable for different ages, young kids. I mean, not for low levels, young kids maybe, but you could do it for like teenagers. You could put posts up by musicians, that kind of thing. Business English, academic English, there's lots of different things you can do this for. It's easily adaptable. Find someone who, this is one of my favorite little activities that I do. So you print out, let's say you've got 20 students, you print out 20 different questionnaires and they have to ask each other questions. Or you can do it in a grid and you could give like columns, and in the top of the column you could say something along the lines of where, and they have to make a question with where. You say, oh, a question with who, and they have to make a question with who. They go around asking each other these questions that they've created, or the questions that you have made for them. It's very adaptable for grammar. You could do very sort of simple questions like favorite food. What's your favorite food? What's your favorite town? What's your favorite color? That kind of thing. So quite low level ones. You could make it up even to higher ones to say, what's the best selling product in your company? That kind of thing. Business English, higher level ones. It's adaptable for ages, as I just said. And it gets them talking in a semi-relaxed way. If you just say to a group of people, speak to each other, they don't speak to each other. If you say to them, right, okay, here's some questions. I want you to go around, speak to each other, ask each other these ones. They have like this piece of paper that they can sort of protect themselves with, so that if they are super shy, they can say, well, I've got to do this, so I'm going to go around and do it. It also sort of relaxes them because they're speaking to each other individually instead of just speaking up in front of the class. So it does get them talking. Also, and can be quite important for a lot of classes, it makes them move, because if they've got this one questionnaire that they've got to ask to 10 different people, they've got to stand up, they've got to walk around, and they've got to ask each other. If they've been stuck at their desks all day, or they've been stuck behind their classroom desks all day, this can really, really get them up and moving and make them a bit more awake. Brainstorm a topic. So you put the topic title on the board. Let's say today you are doing art. So you put something up like art and crafts, or painting, or or you could put something like famous artists up like that. Whatever the topic is, you literally just write that up on the board, and then you say, right, guys, together brainstorm any words you know about this topic, or any people you know about this topic, or anything at all. Tell your partner anything at all you know about this topic. Go. That's it. It's a really, really great way to introduce the topic. And if they have some of the ideas coming up that you're going to do in the lesson, it doesn't matter, because you're going to do some speaking practice about it. You're going to do some listening, some reading, writing practice about it, whatever it is. But it's a great way to introduce the topic. It's also a great way to activate their lexicon, because they're sort of reverse thinking. And they're not just looking at one individual thing and trying to come up with a word. They're looking for like a group of words within their class, within the topic, within their brain. And that's a quite good way to activate some lexicon. Mystery object. So you could pick an object related to the topic, put it in a bag, and they can't look into the bag. So, sort of a brown paper bag or a carrier bag, something like that, where they can't see. And you can ask them to guess what it is. And they can do this by either putting a hand in the bag and trying to guess without looking, or you can not open the bag and they have to sort of feel it like that. I've also seen people do this online where they have to, where you sort of have the bag and you sort of hold the bag and they ask you questions like, how does it feel? Is it solid? What kind of shape is it? I think that kind of can work as well. Kids absolutely love this one. Once they've got it, they shout it really, really loud. But the thing is, you've got to let them all have a go. So that could mean having 3 or 4 of them in 3 or 4 different bags and passing it around. But again, gets them thinking about the topic once they go in. Activates the different senses. Could be something a bit smelly. Obviously, they've got to touch it. Sometimes they sort of try and listen to it. They can sort of look at it by guessing. This kind of thing can work. Also can make the lesson seem more real. If you're not talking about something that's in a textbook or on a screen, you're talking about something that they can actually hold and feel themselves. A quick debate, and I'm also sorry, I should just say before I start this one, I'm coming to the end. If you're still with me, thank you very much for tuning in. Please, if you do have any questions, please do put them in the chat. As I said, this is live. I can see people coming in from Munich, I can see people coming in from America, South Africa. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Italy. So please, I'm going to get to your questions in a minute. Please do put them in the chat. And if you think this could work or wouldn't work with your class, also do put that in the chat. Let me know. Right. So this could be something that's for slightly higher levels. Again, it's probably something that you're looking at sort of teenagers and up in the age range as well. But just having a very quick 5-minute debate. So you put a debate question or debate statement on the board. So you could put something like, should teenagers wear school uniform? Or you could have something like, school uniform should be banned. You could put something like, taxes should be increased. Something like that, depending on the level, whatever you might do. Put that on the board, and then you put them in pairs. Don't have a big class-wide debate, because that will take a lot longer than 5 minutes. But you put that on this, and right, in pairs, you agree, you disagree. Discuss for the next 3 or 4 minutes, and away they go. Even if they don't agree or they don't disagree, you've got to sort of force them to have opposite opinions within their class, within their pairs. It can also be done in fours. This is really, really good for academic English classes, really, really good for exam classes, because it sort of mirrors some things they might have to do in their university course or inside the IELTS exam, for example, or Trinity, Cambridge, wherever it might be. Really is a good way of getting them speaking. They've got to activate their ideas. They've got to express their ideas. Hopefully, they've got to give some examples. Also helps if they can listen and sort of comment on each other's opinion. That kind of thing works. And it also quite works with classes where they're really good mates, I find as well. 2 truths and a lie. This is a TEFL EFL classic. You can speak or you can show 3 statements, and they guess which is not true. And again, you can do this on the topic. So you can tell I'm hungry. Let's go with food again. You could put 3 questions, and it could be something like, Carl has never eaten pizza. Obviously a lie. Look at his belly. Or Carl likes pizza, or you could try some local foods, throw that in there, that kind of thing. And then they have to discuss in pairs what's working, what they think is true, and why they don't think it's true. Could also be sort of facts that you've made up, like 1 million pizzas a minute are eaten in Italy, whatever it might be. And students then do the same in pairs. They write 3 sentences about the topic that you've put. You haven't told them the topic, but it's related to what's up there, and they have to do 1's true. So 2 are true and 1 is a lie. The other one has to discuss it. You can use the target grammar. If possible. If you can't do the target grammar, or you're not really doing a grammar lesson, then it really should be the target topic that you're going to be talking about for the next hour or so, whatever it might be. Last one, classroom relays. This is one of my favorite ones. Problem with this one, it can sometimes take more than 5 minutes, but it is quite a good one to do. So you get a piece of paper, and you type or you write a target sentence with a bit of space in between the words. You then cut it up, and you stick the words, or you place the words around the classroom. Or if you're doing it online, you jumble the words into you jumble the sentence into different words, and then they have to rearrange the words, right? Or if it's lower levels, you can do it with one word, and you do a single letter, and they have to try and get you have to create the word from the different letters that they find. All right. So you've cut that up, and you've put that around the classroom. It's one of my favorite activities, but I just couldn't work out how to do it. Okay. The students then in teams work to create the sentence or a word. So they run around, they find the word, they then come back to their team, and they say, look, elephant. Oh, elephant. Okay. Then the next person runs or walks to another word, and they find the word and they see the word and they come back and they go, oh, zoo. And they try and create a sentence from once they found all these words. Or they go like, oh, I found an E, I found an L, I found a P, I found another E, I found an N, I found a T. Elephant. Okay, so again, it gets them moving, and gets them speaking, gets them reading, gets them listening, gets them writing as well. So it's a good one for testing all the 4 skills that might be used within the classroom. Right, a little bit about working online. Now, many of these can be adapted to work online. Okay, so obviously there's 10 different warmers I've just shown. There are lots of different openers as well you could use. Google is full of them. You obviously the number one, what you can do is sharing a screen. So you can share a picture on the screen, you can share a sentence, you can share a question on the screen. That kind of thing works really, really well. Use the online whiteboard for some sort of vocabulary things that you found. So, you could put the different words up for the sentence and then they have to sort of rearrange them. Can you get them to drag them yourself? Or can you then put them in breakout rooms and they have to do it? You can use some sort of Google form, some sort of Google Doc and breakout rooms. You can send them a link and say, right, go in, open the link on your phone. They'll go into your breakout room and discuss that, whatever it might be. You can do that kind of thing. Works really well. Or take a photo of this before you get put into a breakout room. They can be adapted, basically. All of these activities can be adapted to do online. You can assign the roles in the breakout room. So you two are going to be a pair, right? You're going to find yourself in a pair. The person whose name is first in the alphabetical order agrees. The person who's last disagrees, that kind of thing. You have a mini debate in a breakout room. Lots of different ways you can do it. Right, conclusion. Vary your openers. Don't just do the same openers over and over and over again. All right. Do keep them. Do try to do different ones. And the reason why you want to try and vary them and find different ones is because they will get bored with them, or if they've had a bit of a bad day and they're in a bit of a bad mood and you put up again a question to start, they go, oh, not this again. Think about different ways that you can do it. Try and vary your openers. Keep the aim of the lesson in mind. So if it's a grammar lesson or if it's a writing lesson, make sure that they're maybe doing a little bit of writing, or make sure that they are thinking a little bit about grammar. If it's a vocabulary lesson, some sort of topic up there to do with it. Be very wary of the time. So if you've only going to see them for an hour, 10 minutes, 15 minutes on a warmer is too long, probably. Try and keep it for 5 minutes. Now, if you're going to see, I've done 5-hour classes. You can do 5-hour classes. You might want to do a 10 or 15 minute nice warmer. Who knows? Or you might break down the 5 hours into 3 hour and a half with a break in between, something like that. And then you would have 3 different warmers, maybe. Think of your students' age, think of their level, but also think of their home life or their school life. Think about what they've been through that day, and should your warmer try and help them to get into classroom mode if you can. Don't make them complicated at all. Yeah. But if you are going to do one that you think is a little bit complicated, like that run around where they have to recreate it, you'll find that once they've done it once, then they can do it again the next lesson a lot more quickly. Also, if you think it is going to be complicated, plan your instructions of what you're going to say and read out the instructions if you need to, or practice and try and learn them. Thank you very much, everybody. Right. Lovely to see everybody tuning in. Hi, Charles. Hi, Margaret, South Africa. Hi, Charles in Illinois. Anne, how you doing? Good to see you. Mario. Thank you as well, Mario, for tuning in. Great to have you here. Freddie is recently certified. So, Freddie, if you've got any questions about becoming a TEFL org teacher, then please do let us know. And hi, Tana. Tana, I hope I said that right. Hello, Charles, and everybody else that's there. Right, a couple of questions here that have come in. So, do warmers work for one-to-one classes? So, yes. So, a big part of teaching online is is one-to-one classes, especially with adults, also with kids, but a lot with adults. I do a lot of one-to-one classes, and I just sort of, if I put a little, for example, if I put the picture up, I say, look, okay, let's say, I don't know why I'm saying Miguel. I know why, because I did some exams today in Spain. So I'm thinking the Spanish people. Okay, Miguel, right. Look at this picture. In 30 seconds, we're going to discuss what we can see there. Okay. He's there. He's looking at the picture. He's writing down some vocabulary, that kind of thing. That works pretty well. Okay. So you can definitely do it with one-to-one classes. Right. And maybe it's not going to be 5 minutes with a one-to-one class. It might just be 2 minutes. But again, you're sticking to the principles of trying to warm them up, trying to open them, trying to get them into lesson mode, that kind of thing. Do I have any lesson opener ideas for large classes? Yeah, so I think all of these can be done with large classes, because if you're putting a question up on the board and then you put them in pairs, it doesn't really matter if you've got 100 or if you've got 20 or if you've got 10. You just say to them, look, in pairs, discuss this. In pairs, discuss that. Now, with things like doing a debate, you might want to try and put them in groups of 4, something like that. If it's, if you have a huge class of 100, I've had massive classes in China, that many, that can be tricky, but it is something that can be done. At the start, the first time you see them, it's difficult. You have to work it out. You have to try and get your instructions correct. But the second time you do it, you'll find it a lot more easily. It's done a lot more easily. Okay. Don't be afraid to do them in large classes, because especially in large classes, you don't want to fall into the trap of it becoming a presentation. You want to make sure that they are talking to each other and that they are going for it. Any more questions? Yeah. What to do with very, very young learners? It's a good one. So if you've got kids that are 3 or 4 years old, and some classes do that. I think it's a bit too young, but some schools do that. Some schools employ teachers like that. If you have very young kids, keep it to single words. If you're teaching online, you're doing a lesson on animals or colors. You put pictures of things that are typically the color. So fruits tend to be that sort of colors, for example. Animals tend to generally be just one color. You put that up there, you say, what can you see? And, you go, what colors can you see? That kind of thing works pretty well. Or you can do, just in what animals can you see? Little things like that can work really, really well. And then they could even say it in, if they are really quite young, they could say it in their own language, something like that. Or they could make the noises of the animals. That kind of thing can work. It's really, really simple. You're keeping it on single vocabulary items, and it does work. Thank you for those questions. They were great questions. If you are watching this not live, please do put in your questions, because we go back and watch these and try and answer any questions that you might have. And thank you to everyone that's tuning in. It's good to see people from Peru, good to see people from South Africa, Germany, all over the world. Really, really good. Thank you for tuning in. So warmers, if you do one of our courses with us here at TEFL.org, you do one of our 120-hour teacher training courses, you will learn about warmers. You'll learn about openers, and you'll see where they come in the class. We give you some ideas, give you some activities that you might want to do. They can be done, they can be planned really quickly, but having a good one that links to your class does take a little bit more time to think, and can be worth spending some time on to look at, because it just eases your class in and starts that class going and starts the class flowing quite well. Thank you for tuning in. If you want more information, go on our website, TEFL.org. We also have a Facebook group where you can join and chat away in that. We've got a podcast you can download. If you look for that on, your favorite podcast platform, this kind of thing, you'll find there's loads of stuff that we've got going on in the field of EFL. Thank you very much, everybody, for tuning in today and staying with us for the last 40 minutes. I hope you had a good day. I hope you have a good evening or morning, wherever you are in the world. Bye-bye.